action. Hey, hi, folks. Today, Mr. Wu has some really cool stuff, and actually, it's in addition to all the other cameras that he mentioned and reviewed. So today, we're going to have one of the brands that was quite famous, and I'm sure you've heard about it. So I'll let Mr. Wu tell you all about it. Okay, what do we got, Mr. Wu?
Okay, today we do Konica Camera. This company started in the film business. They were doing film, paper and film. So some of you who are old enough remember there's a film called Sakura film. Anyway, whenever you open a Konica camera, when you open the back, there is a little sticker there, Sakura film. Came from the same people. So they ask you when you use the Konica camera, you use the Sakura film. So later on, that Sakura film changed the name to Konica. So it was known as Konica film. So the big film players are Kodak, Fuji, and Konica. Then we have the German one for Agfa. So Konica film. So Konica cameras. The company, over the years, the family members worked, and then one of them coined the name Konishiroko. So this is from the Konica camera. Now, they have, like most companies, they make a few variety of cameras, whether it's a folding camera or compact camera. Then eventually they also make the SLR camera. So the very early one I do not have. That is the auto reflex with the hyphen. Auto dash reflex. That is the only camera, 35 millimeter SLR camera. There's a little switch on top here. You can switch from full frame to half frame. So the film gate inside will change. Now it's a full frame, and then when you flip the switch, you will become half frame. And you can do it anytime. So you can choose either you take 36 picture or 72 picture. So that camera, I haven't found one yet. So then they have the Konica auto reflex, where it's joined together, auto reflex. The first version is T. T I don't have. Then the second one I have here, the T2. This is the T2, but on the faceplate they says kept it at T. Actually, it's the T2. So this camera, the Konica camera, they have an automatic exposure using the shutter priority. So you pre-select your shutter speed, and the aperture ring you put it to AE with the meter inside with the battery. When the camera will select the proper aperture, or you can do full manual. So you can do it like this, and of course you have the lens mount. They have their own, they call it the AR mount. The body flange distance is quite short. So they make adapter, you can use a screw mount M42. They make adapter, you can use the Exacta lens. They make adapter, you can use the Nikon F lens, because their flange distance was longer. So this is the Konica. Very solid, built like a tank. If we do a blind test, you blindfold yourself, we put the Nikon mat and this, you can't tell the difference in terms of weight. Okay? Very well built like a tank. They also use the vertical Copal shutter. So sync at 125. Now in their advertisement, where most company went for aperture priority, Nikon went for aperture priority, Olympus aperture priority, Minolta aperture priority, except for Canon. The Canon, they also have shutter speed priority. So in their advertisement, they put there, you're talking about the other aperture priority companies. They say the others are just a perfectly exposed blur, because the shutter speed you don't control. So if you put the wrong aperture and the shutter speed is too low, you get a perfectly exposed blur. So for them, the argument is that you select the speed first. So you choose the speed where there is no blurring, then the camera take care of the aperture. So there you get an image. You know, you use any other aperture priority system, you are not careful with the shutter speed, the aperture, you control the shutter speed indirectly. You set aperture, then you have to observe the shutter speed, make sure it falls within. That a little bit of thinking. So this one, don't worry. You set the speed first. So you set 125 or 250, you know, that is fast enough to stop the action. Then let the aperture take care of itself. So there's Konica Auto Reflex T2. It has a detachable cold shoe. So without it, you cannot mount the flash. So you put this in here. That allows you to mount the flash. Then you use the flash cable to plug into the PC socket. So mount it here. Then you can choose either M or X. X is for electronic flash, M is for flash bulb. Then you have the usual self-timer, depth of field preview, and so on. The rewind crank, very big, also very simple. Do nothing. You can't pull this out. Not like the one where you pull out to open the back. So you open the back by pulling this little tab here. Okay, so that's it. That is the T2. Then after the T2 came the T3. So the T3, a few additions. They have a multiple exposure lever. You can do that. And then they got a little red color dot. So when you wind the film, it turns green. That means ready to shoot. The shutter is cocked, ready to shoot. After you make a picture, it becomes red. So you know whether you need to wind or don't wind. So it have an additional film tab guide, so you know what film you have inside. Same, the opening is still here. The same shutter. Again, you got the sticker, Sakura color. Use Sakura film. This time the flash socket is on this side. Lens mount is the same, except the depth of field lever is slightly different. Now it's combined with a self-timer. So you want to check the depth of field, you push toward the lens. Let's see, put it to a small aperture like this. See, the aperture closed. You press the middle button and pull it down, they become the self-timer. And the self-timer, I believe, also make like the way the Nikon self-timer work. So when you activate, the mirror go up first. Mirror go up first before the shutter opens. So that time period will reduce any vibration or shock. So they don't have a independent mirror lock, but using it this way is tantamount to the same thing. So you got the T3. Now the T3 have an extra contact here. When you mount the shoe, they have contact here, so you got hot shoe. So you don't need to use this anymore. You got your flash unit got the direct contact. You can use that. I have another T3. I got this because the first one got some problem. But you see what happened to this one? The spring wind lever is at the bottom. Is to make the lever return back to normal position so you can wind. So that spring broke and I couldn't find any spare part. So what I did on this one, I removed the spring. So I have to return it by hand. Very troublesome. So where I come from, we got plenty of rubber band. So I loop the rubber band here. So this is now my spring. You see? As long as it works, cost me next to nothing. I can choose the color. I can choose the color. If it breaks, I change again. So if I don't have one, I find on the road, I can pick up another one. I go to the fruit store, plenty of rubber bands. So I use a rubber band spring return. So this is the hot shoe, the one with the shoe. I put it here because I need the rubber band to anchor this. So I make a loop here, make a loop here. So it works fine for me. So this is the T3. So this one with a 1.4 lens. They have 1.4. This one is a pancake lens. Pancake lens 40, 1.8. This is a 1.7. So this mount is the AR. In fact, the lens quality are pretty good. And if you get an adapter, You mount it on a mirrorless camera, you can use it. I also have this teleconverter. So it doubles the focal length, teleconverter. So it has bellows, it got long lens, but yeah. So this is Konica.
Who makes the lenses for Konica?
They make it themselves. They make it themselves. Later on, these are the metal series. After that, when the camera become more electronic, and they introduce plastic and they put built-in motor, so the camera no longer that robust. So they did not go into the autofocus. By that time, they already ceased production.
Well, I might be getting a Konica Hexa.
Oh,
So
when
I do, I'll have it.
That is
we'll have to
the
take a look.
fixed lens point and shoot high-end model. They have the Hexa. The first was come with a fixed 35 f2 lens. The shutter speed is only going up to 1/250, not more than that.
Did they have an M mount?
No, that one no mount. Then later on they make the Konica Hexa with using an M mount, built-in motor. So at that time you can compare it. That the close Leica model will be the Leica M7. But M7 is hand wind, so you have to put the motor to have the motor winding. On the Hexa, Konica Hexa, the motor built-in motor.
So we'll review that as soon as I get it.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'll get it one day.
So
Okay, Mr. Wu. Now, is there any surprises here you got?
yeah. Let me put them back home first.
Okay, great. Excellent. We love
you
surprises.
rear chicken, so at the night you got to chase them all back to the coop. They go back to the coop, so the snakes and everything won't go after them. So put them back in the coop, and then shut them down. Then this is I just got this. One of the Minolta I did not cover that day. This is called the Minolta X700. When the European Camera Award started, this camera won the first award. So this was the European Camera of the Year award, Minolta X700. So from the SRT, then we have the X series, metal body, metal shutter, and then they move on to this one, plastic top, plastic bottom. They go back to cloth shutter. They scrap the metal shutter, go back to cloth shutter. But this is an interesting camera. Compared to the Canon and Nikon, it costs less, but they will have their own few innovation. This camera you can set to program automation, so you put to P. And this lens is the MD type. There's a locking pin, so you set to the smallest aperture marked in green and you lock it. In this mode, the camera will measure the light and select the speed and the aperture for you. Then if you turn on the beeper, there's one switch with a beeper. If the light is too low, you hear the beep, tick, 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 tick. When the shutter speed goes below 30, about 15, that's the speed is not good for hand holding. You shake, so they give a warning. So, but to sometimes we find that a bit distracting, so we don't switch off the sound. Beside P, you can also set to A. A, you disengage the lock, you choose the aperture, the camera select the speed, aperture priority. Or you can do manual. You choose the speed and you choose the aperture, but inside the light meter will guide you. So you have a metered manual. But the most interesting thing about this camera is that when you peep through inside the viewfinder, it got one of the brightest view ever. Bright viewfinder, so much so that people like Hasselblad and a few other companies asked Minolta to make the screen for them. They call it, Minolta call it the AccuMat screen. So they have a very bright focusing screen. Then the flash system also have TTL flash. Then of course you can put a motor, you can put a data bag, and so on. So this is the Minolta.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Now, there's one thing here don't belong to this camera. Here, little things sticking out here. I can use it as a secondary shutter release. So if I put a wide angle lens, wide like a 20 mm, I can put it at this distance and take my own selfie like that, you know, take my own selfie, my selfie button. Now this button actually came from the Leica R6, Leica R7. This is the mirror pre-release button. So on the Leica R, there's a socket here, you put it there, you push it, the mirror will go up, and then you trip the shutter. There's a mirror pre-release. So I put it here, so it becomes my second shutter button.
Wow, fantastic. Well, what a collection. Yeah, I think we had a couple of comments on people requesting that camera. And I know people are very, very happy with all the information you've given. So with that in mind, thanks a lot, guys. And we'll see you on the next Mr. Woo Classic Camera reviews. Okay.
Okay.
Until then, bye.
Bye-bye.